We've got a great example of a business owner here who's put in the time, put in the effort, created a sustainable business that he can make a happy living with. And we're going to talk about that right now. Giddy up. Welcome everyone to your little castle show. Yours truly, Cardinal Cowboy. We get to talk to some people who've just kind of proven that this thing works. 25 years of work now, and you've got a sustainable. Your business is doing great. You're happy where things are at, and you're sharing with people a little bit here about what it is to have a successful business with somebody who's done the work. Tell me, as we welcome our guest, I'll put up on the titles here for everybody. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Lueders, the owner of Liberty Home Industries, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Well, tell me, what does it take? What is it meant for you to have a business like this that sustains? You've built yourself into a position now where you've got a comfy lifestyle, 25 years of work. Why did you decide to get into this some 25 years ago?
Well, actually, I came out of the technology field, but worked for some very exciting companies, but they always wanted me to move from St. Louis because St. Louis is a third-tier market. They always wanted me to move to Chicago or Dallas. And I'm a long-time St. Louis family man with 50-some-odd aunts, uncles, and cousins in the area. I did move to Philadelphia with McDonnell Douglas back in the 80s.
Right.
And missed St. Louis so much that I got them to transfer me back.
Okay.
And then... But, you know, growing up in St. Louis in those early years, there wasn't people out there that can do things for you. So, you know, I learned very early, even in my teens, how to change a hot water heater, how to do plumbing, how to do carpentry. You know, we knocked doors out of our house and put sliding glass doors in. We had some painting issues that we decided, hey, we're tired of painting this house. Let's put vinyl siding on it. Actually, it was aluminum siding at that time.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, as my careers, you know, kind of downgraded, so to speak, not being able to not wanting to move from St. Louis, I decided to get into the home remodeling business. And at first, I thought about being everything to everybody, but then I kind of focused on siding. And back in the early days, there was a big government subsidy for replacing masonite siding.
Okay.
And that was a benefit to a lot of people because everybody would get, you know, $7,000 or $8,000 from this masonite fund to put siding over their house. And, you know, that kind of started the business. I never really actually did the siding myself. I always had crews that I worked with that would do that. So I would basically sell the job, order the material, and get a crew there to finish it. And it became a very successful business for a number of years until really there was a downfall in that 2008 market where you know, my sales went from, you know, $1 million a year down to $250,000.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was significant. So I had to learn to be very adept at the time. But as the years went by, you know, after watching my P's and Q's and my money, I was able to get past those years and keep my expenses low. That was the key to where I am today.
Well, that's a great little history there because a lot of people, they kind of wander around, but you kind of made that switch and took it on for 25 years and built a very steady business out of it, even at times through the good and the tough times, right?
Exactly, yeah. That was the thing. Because so many people, if you look at the industry, so many people would, you know, I would hire a siding contractor. Well, you know, he would then go off on his own. He'd work for maybe a year or two, and then he'd go out of business. And then he'd come back as another name, you know.
Right.
That's where people got into trouble. They'd hire these people that were not, that had no stability, and they'd give them money, and they wouldn't show up.
That's not how you do business.
Yeah, well, that's how you do, not how you do successful business.
Right.
So, I've been in business now for 25 years, and my philosophy is that I require no down payments. I will get there, do the project, and when I'm finished to your satisfaction, you pay me. And it works great.
That's a good way to run a business.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, everybody. We'll give a shout out to our sponsors, Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things in your little castle. Your little castle could have been worked on by Liberty. There we go. Liberty Home Industries with Paul as an expert to do that. So thank you, Paul, for showing up here. Let's get over here. We do have your BBB ratings over here, and we've got a nice looking fan page over here. So I'm going to put those both up on two different sides of our studio here. So share a little people a little bit about what you do and some of the stuff you've got going on in your community. But tell me then, what is it that fuels your passion about this? As a matter of being a business owner and making people happy, what do you enjoy most about the work that you get to do?
Well, the nice thing is that, I provide a service that I think is very economical and very trusting to the customer. If you look at the competition that's out there, some of them are pretty shady. And, I provide some very useful tools in order for them to be very comfortable. My pricing's attractive. If they want to do business with me, great. If they don't, I have no problem, and I educate people.
Well, as a matter of being a business owner, that's kind of the objective, isn't it? You're going to be the one who's going to have to inform your consumers about what it is they're about to spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 on.
Correct.
And when they do that, that's where they want to get to. That's why we found our show has been very effective for people. They want to get to know who it is they're spending this kind of money with. And for somebody like yourself who's done a good job for so long. With that, we'll talk a little about your BBB. You've been listed on the BBB
since '93.
Since '93, and down here you can see you've got that A+ rating on the BBB, and that's kind of what do you think? What do you appreciate most about being listed on the BBB with that A+ rating? What does that mean to you?
Well, it means that I've got no complaints. People like what I've done, and that's the big thing is that I work to their satisfaction. And again, they don't have to pay me until the work is done to their satisfaction. But fortunately, that has never been a problem.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've got it, especially with the background you come from, working for big companies that was it McDonnell Douglas, or who were you working for?
McDonnell Douglas, Sony, IBM,
right.
Toshiba, NEC, a lot of high-tech companies in the first 10 years of my career. But as I said, I wanted to stay in St. Louis, and none of them offered me positions permanently in St. Louis. They always wanted to go to Chicago or Dallas. And I had this skill growing up, doing all this stuff. And as most of us at our age, we had to do all this stuff ourselves because there weren't people out there to do it.
Yeah, well, that kind of background, especially coming through a corporate environment. I worked for Anheuser-Busch for 10 years as an IT guy. I built Microsoft Exchange servers, might be something you're familiar with, but email was such an incredible. And then a big merger happened, right, and a takeover, and then they let 1,400 of us go in one day. So I decided to get back into the sales world, became a marketing guy for Google's biggest partner, Reach Local back in the day, was their #1 guy in the country, and then saw where this TV thing in my community stuff. But what is it you think that about your business that has kind of led you to where you've had a successful career? I mean, what is it that caused your success? If you had to attribute that to anything in particular?
Well, naturally, being a salesman growing up or in my business career, they taught me a lot of good skills. One of the things that I've learned a long time, my customer, when you're working with somebody on a roof, for example, I put together a Eagle View report, which is a schematic of the roof. I put together a material list of what's required for that. I put together an estimate, and I put together my labor quote. I put that all together, and I share that with my customers. Whereas if you're looking at, I got an example here, which I don't think will show up, but, this is a schematic of the roof, which
I'll put the camera over on there. Hold that up a little bit. There you go. A little higher up.
Whoa.
To your right. There you go.
This is a schematic, and there's 4 pages of it.
Okay.
It gives you all the measurements of your roof. Oops, I'm in the wrong spot here.
You got it there. I can see
all
that,
the measurements and the schematics and the pitch, the lineal measurements, and all that is used then to create a material list, which I then send off to my supplier, and I give this to my customers as well. I guess I'm going the wrong way on this thing.
There it is. There you go.
So, you know, it really is self-explanatory. And then I give them my estimate, which, you know, highlights these things so they know exactly what they're doing. And then I use ChatGPT.
You're using ChatGPT too.
ChatGPT to put together, this is why should you add a ridge vent? This is from Microsoft Copilot.
Okay.
You know,
you're on the ball there.
Installing gutter screens while I'm up there.
Okay.
You know, this is part of the packet that I put together. Why we should install ice and water along the gutter runs.
Gotcha.
And then installing impact-free resistant shingles versus just a regular shingle on your roof. You know, so I share all this with my customers, and I put it in a nice little, pretty little packet like this with my business card on it. And if you look at what my competition does, they just give them an estimate. It's a number.
All right.
And you have no idea what that number really represents. And for example, the roof I'm doing now, one of their quotes was $44,000. Well, you know, what's in that $44,000?
Right.
You know, it just scares people. You know, yeah, we'll do it for $44,000, but what is it? So, you know, having a material list, having a labor cost, and then actually I only multiply it times 1.2, and that gives me a selling price, which my customers really appreciate, and it answers so many of their questions. It's really my success rate is probably closer to 80%, and I'll bet that the 20% that I lose is because people don't have the money to do it.
Right.
You know, there's always a lot of people out there that are getting quotes, they have problems, and they see a price, you know, even though mine's lower by $20,000, they just don't have the money to do it. The biggest complaint I get is, I'll wait till the next hailstorm.
Right. Yeah. If you wait, if you don't like the weather in St. Louis, wait a while. It'll wait 15 minutes. It'll change, right? Well, it seems like you do a lot to educate the consumer, which is very important because my mom's a teacher, 60 years still teaching. They named the auditorium after her. John Goodman came down to do that. That was kind of fun. But she espouses that education is the key. If people have the information, if people are knowledgeable, then they can make an informed decision. And they're going to be spending quite a bit of money here. Definitely worth the information. It's quite a packet you've got there that you help people so they know what they're getting into and why they should get what you're offering.
Yeah, it's amazing what I see from the competition. Again, it's just an estimate, and if you read the back of their things, that if you sign this and then don't go with them, they'll sue you for half the price of the estimate. It scares the hell out of people, you know.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that really take advantage of the customer.
Well, that's why we like to have great examples of people like yourself who don't do that, because boy, we've all seen that situation when we've heard of these stories where people put their money down and the contractor disappeared, or they put their money down and then they didn't get what they were paying for.
Exactly.
So with that, we're going to stay tuned for a little bit more fun from our community. We've got some stuff we were doing in the community recently, and we'll show you some of the fun charities we get to support. Stay tuned for that, everybody, as we jump in here to share some of that with you. Here you go.
Okay. Hey everybody, it's John Fogarty.
Thank you.
You're a musician on the side, right?
Yeah, I'm going to sing a little bit later today, but not until after the golf.
Right. Summit, great organization. We love you guys. Great interview we had.
Yeah, we had a great time on the podcast.
That was fun, man. That aired on ABC about 6 months ago.
Yeah, probably 6 months ago. It was right fall, I think. So yeah, maybe a little more.
Well, you guys do good work. Tell me why you love this event here. You're supporting Will.
Yeah, so Will Be Inspired golf tournament. Veterans, first responders, 100% everything goes right back into it. So always support the best and try to take care of ours and take care of us. Thank you, guys.
That's awesome. There we go. All right, everybody. We'll be back for more. Giddy up.
His name is Carter Rethwich, but in St. Louis, he's known as the Cardinal Cowboy. He's a well-known fixture in the stands at sporting events in the Gateway City. He's one of its greatest cheerleaders, a super fan like no other. When he makes his rounds at almost every home game, he shares his love for sports with the rest of fandom with a smile, a cheer, some positive encouragement, and lots of selfies and pics. But the Cardinal Cowboy was born of a tragic incident. Rethwish was an aspiring athlete in high school and college. He dreamed of playing in the big leagues, but those dreams ended when he and 3 of his college friends were hit with a devastating crash by a 5-time drunk driver. One of his best friends died. Carter suffered a critical head injury. The trauma put him in a coma for 6 days. The doctors said he was never expected to function again. Those expectations never came true. He fought back and finished college. He was determined to prove the doctors wrong. Among other inspirations, it was his love of baseball that kept him going. And from his near-death experience, the Cardinal Cowboy emerged. His goal in life became to inspire others with positivity despite the odds, to help people believe in themselves and achieve their dreams.
So after my coma, I realized that it was up to me if I was going to accomplish my goals, if I was going to reach my dreams. Despite what the naysayers would say, the people that were discouraging me, like they do everyone, it's up to me if I'm going to make it. Don't listen to the naysayers. It's up to you. You decide whether you're going to succeed, whether you're going to reach your goals. Dream, and then always, always chase your dreams. Never give up. Giddy up. Hey everybody, Cardinal Cowboy here. I want to invite all of you to be part of my new team. No, you don't have to put on a baseball uniform and be a super fan. Now, it would be a good idea to cheer for the Cardinals, the greatest team in the history of the National League. But I'm talking about the Gold Cowboy team. You know, I love to help people follow their dreams and reach their goals in business and in life. So that's one of the reasons why I'm telling you about my friends at My Metal Pro. They help people like you and I acquire gold and silver with a membership that lets you safely buy, sell, and store gold and silver. They make it real easy to get started. My Metal Pro isn't like the big guys you see on network TV or the big coin shops that take a huge commission. So become part of my Gold Cowboy team. Scan the QR code or go to goldcowboy.com and check it out. Giddy up! So there it is. You got to see some of the fun we get to have in the community. With that, we talk about the technology and the way the world has evolved. Magnetized Media. This is the book. I wrote the intro, the foreword for this first chapter, they said, and they can put my mug in the picture in here. Look at that. But yeah, we talk about, I introduce why technology and media has changed the world and allows for so many people now to get the information, to figure out what they're looking for. And that leads me to my question. People can now do the research and figure out what the costs might be. But give me a little cost analysis. What's the benefit of going through a contractor like yourself versus going through a huge contractor, or for those who try to save a little money and do it themselves or have their brother-in-law do the work?
It's impossible to do a roof, for example, because you really need to get it done in a day. Because you run the potential for rain, and if rain's up there, well, I've seen people try to do it themselves, and unfortunately, it'll take them 5 days. Most contractors will be able to do it with a roofing crew of 6 people, and we'll get it done in a day.
Right.
And we always pick a day like today where there's no rain. If somebody would have tried to do it on Monday or Tuesday when it drizzled, that would have been very difficult, and they probably would have gotten a lot of trouble on the inside.
Right.
So it's important to get a roof done in a day. Now, siding you can take several days to do. Windows generally take several days to do, but you're only pulling a window out for 20 minutes, and then you get the new one in. So doing it by yourself is almost an impossibility with the size, unless you had a lot of friends.
Right.
It's impossible to do it by yourself.
Well, what do people risk by trying to do things by themselves? Or I like to talk a little bit about, because you compete with some big name companies. What's the difference between you and some of the big guys?
Actually, very little, because in the roofing business, it's pretty much Mexican crews or Spanish-speaking crews, and we all use them. So my crew may be working for me one day, but he'll work for Allen Roofing the next day, and the next day. Since I only do maybe one roof a week, they want to keep themselves busy, so they're working for many crews, and that's what kind of is surprising that people don't realize that you're really, you're buying the crew from a guy. Now, I work with the same crew every time, whereas with a bigger company, they may have 3 or 4 different crews that they're working with, and you never know who's working on your house. And many times they're so busy that the Spanish crew will come up and nobody speaks English. And if somebody's not there to supervise, it's a very challenging situation. You can't get answers to your questions without having somebody there. Whereas with a small guy like me, I'm there in the morning, I'm there in the afternoon for lunch. I bring my crew lunch. I'm there in the afternoon for cleanup, and then I also tip my guys. So they're always asking, "Can I work for you tomorrow?" I wish I had more work for you, but next week I'll probably have another roof. Whereas with these bigger companies, they're doing 5, 6 roofs a day with different crews, and quite frankly, the salesman who sold you the thing never shows up. The president of the company never shows up, and it's just the crew that does the work, and you don't really have any supervision to it.
Well, that helps explain the next question I got for you, and that is, why should somebody choose your company? What is it that really separates you from the competitors?
Again, it's really pretty much what I just said. I'm there in the morning, I'm there in the afternoon for the crew at lunch, I'm there in the evening for the cleanup to make sure everything is appropriate, where most of the competition just never shows up.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Well, tell me, that's why I think I love working with small business owners, because there's the opportunity for me. If there's a problem, there's a question, I do get to talk directly to the owner.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a real benefit? Because you were talking about sometimes the owner, you got to go through 3 levels of support: first level, second level, third level, before you're going to actually get to talk to somebody. And so, but when you're working with a smaller company like yourself, you are the person to talk to. You are the support team, and you're going to be able to answer their questions on the spot.
Right, and if I'm gone, they just call me and I'm there. That's one advantage of working primarily in West County. I'm usually 10 or 15 minutes from any job.
Well, that makes a lot of sense for people. If you're going to get a roof done in the St. Louis area and West County area, that's your expertise, right?
That's actually, but we had significant hail in Wentzville early this year, so I was spending a lot of time driving back and forth from Wentzville. But I was able to get there, the 3 times a day that I tell my customers I'll be there, and it's just a longer drive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to see that the owner is going to be on site 3 times a day to make sure that this project's being run correctly.
Exactly.
Okay. As we finish up, then tell me then, for this half hour, we've got about 5 minutes left here, so a little discussion here, but what's the biggest mistake the average homeowner makes when they're making these kinds of decisions?
Well, I don't think they really understand what's involved with, I'd say 80% of the business right now, especially in roofing, is hail damage. Even siding's a lot of hail damage. And they don't realize that there's negotiation. They get an insurance claim, and the insurance claim says you get this amount of money. Well, that's all negotiable. And sometimes I put together supplements and get more money for the customer. And a lot of times back in the 80s, when we were growing up, when you had an insurance claim, they gave you the check up front. Nowadays, insurance company, because of the financial crisis of 2008, they give the money in 2 checks. They give you a deposit check, usually about 50%, and they don't give you the second check until the roof is completed. And the reason being is, back in 2008, during the financial crisis, people would get $10,000 checks, and they were underwater, and they'd just walk away. And the house would be sitting there with a leaky roof, and the mortgage company would take it over and have to redo the roof anyway. So things have changed from that period where they just would get the check up front and do it all. Now they have to do it in 2 checks. And it's important to negotiate those checks. And most people don't.
Yeah, that's why you need the expert to do that. How often is it the case, though, that there are claims with regard to hail damage or wind damage, especially hail damage? And hail comes through here every year. There's a hailstorm that comes through. Would you recommend people go ahead and take care of that and work with the insurance company themselves, or should they work through somebody like yourself to help walk through that process to make sure they're getting the coverage they need?
Well, again, there's a lot of these call centers that are calling people saying, hey, we're going to be in your neighborhood, and they'll inspect your roof. The problem with that is they'll get up and they always say there's a problem.
Right.
And then you have to call your insurance company and make a claim, which is not good. Because if you get, it provides the opportunity where they can eventually cancel you for whatever reason. But it's the adjuster for the insurance company that determines whether it's truly an insurance claim or not. I had an incident just recently where one of these guys was walking through, got up on the roof, had the homeowner get up the roof with him as well, started circling spots on the roof. And then the adjuster came out there and said, this isn't enough damage. So now he's got a claim on his profile, and it serves no purpose. It's really the insurance company that really makes the decision whether you get a new roof, not these guys who walk around in your neighborhood and saying, hey, let me get up there and find a spot for you.
Wow, yeah, I'd say then if you do have enough damage, and there's been a tremendous storm, is that where you can really help the consumer, the homeowner, to deal with the insurance company to make sure they do get everything fixed correctly?
Well, because I know what I do enough of these things that, in fact, I was just on a call with an adjuster a minute ago before I came here. Every different community has a different building code requirements. Baldwin, for example, requires ice and water and drip edge around the perimeter. Well, most of the time, the insurance company adjusters come from different areas, and they have no idea, whereas Town and Country only requires drip edge. The city in Chesterfield only requires drip edge. There's only a certain number that requires ice and water, and they leave those things off the adjustment. So I had to put together a supplement for $1,600, which helped pay for all this additional work, and that allowed the customer to, get his entire roof covered.
Yeah, that's where your expertise really becomes important, because the average consumer is not going to be able to have that argument with the insurance company.
Correct.
They don't know what to look for. And will an insurance company try to talk somebody out of making a claim when they potentially should have had a claim?
I've seen that, yes. I happen to be involved with a guy. I did this guy on the right, I did this one on the left, and I did the one across the street. But then the insurance adjusters came out there 3 times and denied it. And there was really nothing more I could do at that particular point when there's 3 different adjusters said no. But occasionally, that's a possibility. I can help, but it's really up to the adjusters.
Yeah, well, it's best to have that expert on the roof that can help them to go through the discussion here, because that's not their area of specialty,
right?
And what they would understand best to do. But it sounds like with your years of experience and your expertise, you have established yourself and put your footprint, and you've got a nice, comfortable place where you're at with your business, and things have gone well for you, and you've helped a lot of people.
I think so. I'm very happy with working with the people in my neighborhoods, because I figure they're my neighbors.
Well, those are the kinds of leaders we're looking for. Thanks for sharing some of your expertise.
Thank you.
And we had a nice half-hour discussion here with Paul, and I'll put his title up there for you. Paul Lueders, he's the owner of Liberty Home and Industries. Get a hold of him. He services the St. Louis area with a focus on West County. Stay tuned for more, everybody. Giddy up.